What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Let's Ask Paul. My name is Paul Abernathy, your host, as always, and welcome to the podcast where I do my best to answer all electrical code questions that you submit to me through the portal at paulabernathy.com. So if you haven't done it yet, go to paulabernathy.com. That's paulabernathy.com. And you can submit your questions, code related, whatnot, and it will come to me. And I will answer the questions for you either in an email or, if selected, on a podcast, much like today's podcast. So we got a pretty good one today. I'm going to be starting a new segment here on Let's Ask Paul because, again, I've still got a lot of questions I have to go through that people submit. But I also want to take advantage of a wonderful resource that is online it's from Nika. And it's one of those things where it's based on this emails that go out, and you can submit to the code question of the day for Nika. And it's really great because it does ask code questions. Now, the only problem I have sometimes with it is some of the answers are very limited. They could be a lot more detailed to the answers. And I get it. Sometimes I just give an answer and that's it. But I want to use some of those questions to be able to answer for folks out there who might not be aware of that. And again, it's been going on for years, so there's some old ones that are out there and things like that. So I want to be able to give a resource to it. Now, these come from a gentleman. His name was Charlie Trout. Charlie's no longer with us anymore, and Anika continues on. And I don't know exactly who's answering these questions. But at one point, there was a guy named Michael Johnston who works there that he was probably answering majority of these. Very sharp cat. But they get answered. And at the end of the day, again, Charlie's not with us anymore. But it lives on. Okay. It in memory of all that he did, it continues to live on. So, but you can submit questions to them at codequestion@nikanet.org. And they will answer questions for you. But what we want to do is start using a lot of these questions as well, kind of sprinkle them into the Let's Ask Paul to be able to elaborate on them a little more. So this is a question that was submitted by a gentleman named Greg Martin. And it was submitted, and it's actually not even being answered yet. It's supposed to be answered tomorrow. But I just wanted to kick this off, so I figured I'd jump the gun and answer this question, and maybe Nika will say I'm wrong. How about that? So we're going to read it. So this is a question that was written, and it's a rather lengthy one, but I think it's going to be a good question to discuss. And because it's dealing in grounding electrodes and the grounding electrode system, and since I serve on Code Making Panel 5, this might be a great one. So let's look at it. So here's what the question says, and I'll read the whole question and then we'll break it down. It says, hello, code question of the day. It says, I was wondering if you can settle a debate for me when it comes to grounding electrode conductor sizing. If you were to have a 100 amp service in a dwelling unit and were to install 4-gauge copper service entrance conductors allowed by 310.12, so the assumption is here that this installation met all of those requirements, obviously between 100 and 400 amps, and it met, it's single phase, met all those rules that you can utilize 310.12, so that's the assumption here. It says, and it's 4, and if you go look at it, 4-gauge copper is what you would have in table 310.12, and it's basically the 83% rule, okay? And it says, what is the minimum size grounding electrode conductor you would need to connect a concrete encased electrode? Okay. Now it says 250.66 states that you use the table to size all grounding electrode conductors, and that 250.66 A through C tells you the maximum size you are required to run. Now, wording here, it doesn't necessarily say the maximum, right? In the sense of, could you, if it says a 6-gauge to a ground rod or a 4-gauge to a copper, it says it doesn't have to be larger than that, but it could be. I mean, you could have an engineer who specifies 4/0 to the concrete case electrode if they wanted to, for whatever reason they want to do it, they could. Okay, so all right, so just wanted to establish that. It says, I would say for this installation that you can use an 8 gauge grounding electrode conductor for the 100 amp service, since that is what is given in the table. I have someone else saying that you only use the table for water pipe and building steel electrodes. That is not true. So I'll get rid of that one right away. That is not true. And he says, and that you must use 250.66A through C for things like ground rods, concrete encased electrodes, and that those sizes are those subdivisions, are a minimum. He says you must run a 4 to a concrete encased electrode no matter what size service you have. Can you shed some light on this discussion, please? Thank you. And it was signed by a gentleman named Greg Martin. And I don't have to keep names quiet on this episode because these are public. It's right out there. So it's not like it's hiding anything, like with your ability to submit the Let's Ask Paul, which I don't say anybody's name for that. So it's anonymous. But this one's, it's out there. So it's okay to do that. Okay, first things first, I'm going to direct this individual. Let's go look, okay? We already established that it's 4 gauge for the ungrounded hot conductors based on 310.12. It's 100 amp, okay? So this is the 83% rule, okay, which is on another episode if you don't understand that. But let's assume that everything he's right so far for that 100 amp. That's your ungrounded conductors. Now, let's go to 250.66 and read what it says. All right, I'm at 250.66, right? And here is what it says. It says size of alternating current grounding electrode conductor. It says the size of the grounding electrode conductor at the service at each building or structure where supplied by a feeder or branch circuit. And of course, we understand those rules in 250.32, right? We've been down that road before. Or at a separately derived system of a grounded or ungrounded AC system shall not be less than given in table 250.66, except as permitted in 250.66A through C. Okay, this is so similar to what we do, for example, in ranges, right? Where we have the range and it happens to fall between, let's say, 3.5 kW and 8.75 kW. We usually use column C, but then we can use node 3. And if it results in a smaller range value than what we would have in column C, because of node 3, we can use the lesser of the two. Okay, you remember that? That's when we're doing a load calc for ranges, that kind of concept. Well, it's the same kind of concept here. It tells me that I use table 250.66, except I'm permitted by permissive statements to use A, B, or C. So they're not exceptions. Okay? It says except as permitted, but they're not written as exceptions. But they are allowances to deviate from table 250.66, unless, of course, the table 250.66 yields a smaller value. Okay? And the reason for that is because it says use table 250.6 except as permitted. You're permitted to use A, B, or C. Not required to use A, B, or C. You're permitted to use A, B, or C. All right, so in this case, the individual says that it was when he was applying a 310.12 for that 100 amp, right? And he looked at it and he said, okay, well, it's a 4 gauge copper, 100 amps. So if I go to the table 250.66 and I go to 2 or smaller, then you'll see that it is an 8 gauge, right? So an 8 gauge is smaller. Now, if you look at that value and you're sitting there going, okay, well, if I go look at, for the concrete encased electrode, if I go look at the 250.66B, it says, if the grounding electrode conductor or bonding jumper connected to a single or multiple concrete encased electrodes, as described in 250.52A3, so that describes what a concrete encased electrode is, which sometimes is called a UFER based on Herb UFER, who did all his testing back many years ago. It says, it does not extend from that concrete encased electrode to other types of electrodes that would require a larger size of conductor. It says the grounding electrode conductor shall not be required to be larger than a 4. It does not say it can't be smaller. It just says, dude, it's not required to be larger. So you run a 4, it could be 1,000 amp service with 5 sets of 500 kc mills. It wouldn't matter if it's a concrete. And if you were to go look at 250.66, dude, it might require a 3/0 based on the table. But since it's a concrete encased electrode, and that's the only electrode, and you're not extending it onto another one that might require a larger one, like going from a concrete encased up to a water pipe, then that would be wrong, okay? Because that would be probably increasing the size. So if you're just going to the concrete encased electrode, which is all you really need, you can stop at that point. If that's what you're doing, then it doesn't have to be larger than a 4. But the whole way the language is written, and it really shouldn't be a debate from anybody, because the language is pretty damn clear. And I get it. We always can be surprised by different things that get debated. I get it. But here it says it's not required to be larger, but it does not say it can't be smaller. So that takes me back. So if the concrete encased electrode is there, the rebar is there, and I'm making that grounding electrode conductor connection, then I can use table 250.66. So 8 gauge would be the minimum. Could I be larger than that? Absolutely, if I wanted. Could I run a 4 gauge to it if I want? Absolutely, if that's what you want to do. I work for a wire and cable company, so I love you running bigger conductors. Good. Go for it. You know, it's one of those things I'm like, run what you feel like you got to run, bro. But at the end of the day, he's absolutely right. If I want to run 8. Now, with the caveats, understanding that when you run those grounding electrode conductors at that point, then you have to be careful, because then they have to be protected, right? And so you have rules that talk about those when you're running them and you're routing them and how you run them and how you should protect them if they're of a certain size, right? All those protection rules that you have to follow. Then you have to be real careful with that, right, for those grounding electrode conductors. But at the end of the day, does anything say you can't? Absolutely not. Go for it. That's what you want to do. So yes, I would say that the 8 gauge is fine for that concrete encased electrode for that 100 amp. And if it is 8 gauge, then you're going to have to protect it, right? And you're probably saying to yourself, okay, Paul, you brought it up, you said it, you done run your mouth. What do I have to do as far as protecting it? Where are those rules that I have to follow? Okay, glad you asked. Ain't you got your code books? Okay, go look at 250.64, which is grounding electrode conductor installation. And that's what we're talking about, right? And if you look down, you're going to see that there is a 250.64B, and it's securing and protecting against physical damage. And then it's broken into a B1 and a B2. There's a B3, there's a B4, you got yada, yada, yada. Okay, so in this case, let's say he's determined he's going to run an 8 gauge. Well, it tells you if it's not exposed to physical damage, it says 6 and larger, copper or aluminum grounding electrode conductor, not exposed to physical damage, shall be permitted to be run along the surface of the building. And y'all have done that. You've run a 6 gauge copper in a location which you're like, dude, this is not really subject to physical damage. And you run it along the surface of the building. No problem. Now, what if it is determined that it's exposed to physical damage? Then it tells you in B2 that a 6 8FG or larger copper or aluminum grounding electrode conductor exposed to physical damage has to be protected by rigid, intermediate. Trust me, don't use those. Otherwise, you're going to have to bond each end of it. One end that's bonded to the enclosure would be okay, but the other end, you're going to have to bond the copper conductor to the actual protective raceway. Just run Schedule 80 and make your life easier. But anyway, that has to be done. So if it is subject to physical damage, 6 and larger, it's got to be protected. Now, here's where you look at item number 3. Item number 3 says smaller than 6. And obviously the 8 gauge, based on this question, is smaller than 6. It says grounding electrode conductors smaller than 6 gauge, which the 8 gauge would be, shall be protected in RMC, IMC, Schedule 80 PVC. You have RTRC, XW rating, or EMT, or cable armor. Okay, so they do make a cable assembly with just a single bare grounding electrode conductor in it. They do make that. Of all these choices here, again, I would choose Schedule 80 so you don't have to get into the the bonding aspect of it that's can cause you to pull the hair out your head, those type of things. So other than that, it doesn't matter whether it's subject to physical damage or not. If you're going to run 8 gauge as your grounding electrode conductor, then you're going to have to put it in a raceway to protect it. And you have a bunch of choices here. Okay, so the choice is if it's not subject to physical damage, and the code says it could be an 8, right? Because if we looked at it, you might bump it up at least to a 6 if it's not subject to physical damage, so you can just run it on the surface. But there's no need to jump it up to a 6 if it's still going to be running a location that's subject to physical damage, because then you're still going to put it in a raceway. So these are all the things that you as an electrician, you got to look at. So nothing's going to prohibit you from running that 8, but you're going to have to put it in a raceway. Maybe you jump it up to a 6 if it's in a location, again, that's not subject to physical damage, and you can run it on the surface. If it is subject to physical damage, then you're going to have to put it in a raceway either way, so then you might as well just stick with 8 gauge and move on your merry way. Interesting stuff, right? So hopefully that answers that question. We'll see if Nika agrees. Hopefully they agree. But that's when you read the language, okay? It's not required to be larger than it. That means it could be smaller, but it's certainly not required. Now, does that mean, again, as an engineer, go out there and say, hey, I want you to run 4/0 to that rebar? And you're like, dude, do you understand what the code? He's like, yeah, but I don't do minimums, bruh. How many people do we hear that all the time? I don't do minimums, bruh. Like they have some special knowledge that it needs to be different. So what do? They bump it up to 4/0, and you're thinking, oh, crap, now I got to figure out how to connect this thing to this rebar. So this is very common for even ground rod applications, right? You're just going to run straight to ground rods. Then the code says in 250.66, as long as it's not extending from those ground rods onto another electrode, kind of in the daisy chain method, and the next electrode it would carry on to, as long as that wouldn't require a good example of that would be if the code says that doesn't have to be larger than a 6 to ground rods, and then I jump from the ground rods up to a concrete encased electrode, then that would be a problem, right? Those type of, if it was going to be, you were going to run a 4, then that would be larger than the 6. You get me? So you got to be careful in your layout. But the reason I bring this up is because it doesn't require it to be larger than a 6 to ground rods. If that's that's the only electrode you're using, the electrodes, that's it. But could it be smaller than 6? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you want to just use the table and not use A, B, and C, go for it. But just remember, if it ends up being less than 6, then you're going to have to put it in a raceway. Okay? If it ends up being a 6, then it doesn't need to be in a raceway if it's not subject to physical damage. If it is subject to physical damage, then you're going to have to put it in a raceway. You with me? In God's sakes, make it PVC Schedule 80. Make your life easy. I'm just saying. All right. Hopefully that answered that question. Pretty short one today. But there you go. If you want to see those, you can go searching for Nika code questions of the day and see how I did on their response. But check it out. It's a great resource. We'll be using some of those in the future because I think they're just great questions that the more of the masses can actually learn from. So again, still send your questions in to Let's Ask Paul at paulabernathy.com. But we're going to be broadening this thing up. We're going to be talking about all kinds of topics moving forward in the Let's Ask Paul because the podcast is becoming so popular that we want to make sure we branch that out. So make sure you listen to it on all your favorite listening platforms. Till next time, folks, stay safe. God bless and be safe out there.